Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G. President Donald Trump visits the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi. The president's trip to the United Arab Emirates follows a busy stop in Qatar. And President Trump reiterates his desire to redevelop the Gaza Strip. The president tells a business roundtable in Qatar that the U.S. would, quote, make it a freedom zone. The Supreme Court today peppering attorneys with questions over why they should or shouldn't allow district court judges to issue nationwide injunctions. New CDC data shows the lowest numbers of overdose deaths in 5 years. What does this mean for the future of the war on drugs? We ask a former DEA special agent. House Republicans are getting closer to sending their consequential budget bill over to the Senate. We have the details on the latest advance changes to food stamps, Medicaid, as well as the pushback from one Republican senator. And the Chinese regime announces more control over its strategic mineral resources. This is a move that comes days after trade talks with the United States.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
The Supreme Court today hearing arguments over whether or not district courts may issue nationwide injunctions that block the Trump administration from carrying out its birthright citizenship policy. Justice Elena Kagan vigorously questioned the government attorney. She asked how children that are born in the U.S. to illegal immigrants would get immediate relief if courts are not allowed to issue these nationwide injunctions.
Let's just assume you're dead wrong. How do we get to that result? Does every single person that is affected by this EO have to bring their own suit? Are there alternatives? How long does it take? How do we get to the result that there is a single rule of citizenship that is the rule that we've historically applied rather than the rule that the EO would have us do?
In response to Justice Kagan's concerns about multiple people needing to file claims, the government attorney said they may be able to pursue a class action lawsuit, although he may object to it. He then said ultimately the Supreme Court would be the only court that could issue a blanket injunction. Justices also asked the government why they left out the underlying issue, which is a challenge to the president's order on birthright citizenship. That order limits citizenship to only children born to legal permanent residents or immigrants in the country with legal status. Justice Sonia Sotomayor said the executive order is unlawful.
The president is violating not just one, but by my count, 4 established Supreme Court precedents. So as far as I see it, this order violates 4 Supreme Court precedents. Yeah, and you are claiming that not just the Supreme Court, that both the Supreme Court and no lower court can stop an executive from universally from violating those holdings by this court.
The government attorney said he wanted the justices to address the injunction question first because it impacts the government's ability to enforce the law. But the underlying issue on birthright citizenship required more thorough review and should be addressed in lower courts first. Plaintiffs argue that the district courts could issue universal injunctions in some narrow circumstances, and they believe they were justified in doing it for this issue. The Supreme Court will make its decision before its term ends in June. President Trump is in the United Arab Emirates, the final leg of his first major foreign trip. The president visited the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi following his arrival.
Is this beautiful? It is so beautiful. Very proud of my friends. This is an incredible culture that I can say. Very, very proud of my friends. Thank you. Thank you. This is the first time they've closed the mosque for the day. Is that true? First time they've closed it. That's an honor of the United States, I think. Absolutely. So, better than an honor of me. Let's give it to the country. But it's a great tribute. Thank you very much.
President Trump then attended a state visit hosted at a palace in Abu Dhabi and had a meeting with the UAE's president. The president's visit comes as the UAE seeks American assistance in developing artificial intelligence. The U.S. has a preliminary agreement with the UAE to allow it to import 500,000 of NVIDIA's most advanced AI chips starting this year. The deal would boost the Gulf nation's construction of data centers vital to developing artificial intelligence models. And earlier, President Trump today was enthusiastically greeted by U.S. troops at an airbase in Qatar. The president told soldiers at Al Udeid Air Base that his priority is to end conflicts and not to start them.
But I will never hesitate to wield American power if it's necessary to defend the United States of America or our partners. And this is one of our great partners right here. When we're threatened, America's military will answer our enemies without even thinking about it. We have overwhelming strength and devastating force.
I have the distinct privilege every day of watching President Donald Trump put America first. From the Oval Office to foreign trips, every single moment he has the best interests of our warfighters in mind.
The air base is the forward headquarters of the U.S. military's Central Command. It also supported the recent air campaign against the Houthi terror group. President Trump said Qatar will invest $10 billion in the base, the largest U.S. military facility in the Middle East. The president also had some good news for the soldiers.
2026 budget includes across the board. Maybe you don't want it. Look, for the good of the country, you don't have to take it. Pay raises for each and every one of you, substantial pay raises.
President Trump is reiterating his vision for redeveloping the war-torn Gaza Strip. The president told a business roundtable in Qatar today that the U.S. would make the Strip a, quote, freedom zone. Trump has previously said he wants to turn Gaza into the Riviera of the Middle East. Israel invaded Gaza in retaliation for the Hamas-led attack on southern Israel on October 7th of 2023. More than 1,200 people were killed and 251 were taken hostage. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has described Trump's idea as, quote, a bold vision. Palestinians have rejected any plan that would involve them leaving Gaza. The Prime Minister of Qatar is speaking out on multiple issues, including Qatar's gift of a luxury jet to the U.S. and the war in Gaza. Here are some key takeaways from an interview that aired yesterday on Fox News.
Look, we've been always there for the U.S. We've been a reliable ally for the U.S. and it's something between the Ministry of Defense in Qatar and the Department of Defense, and it's in the discussion between them and under legal review. Unfortunately, I see that this story is taking a different direction and is being more politicized while it's a normal government-to-government deal. We see that there is a humanitarian catastrophe still ongoing in Gaza, and it's becoming just worse and worse. And of course, even when you are looking at it from an Israeli perspective, the hostages are not freed yet. So this will definitely trigger a sort of reaction that might put the whole region at risk.
Prime Minister Al-Thani cast Qatar's role as a fair mediator in complex regional conflicts. He also discussed the historical significance of President Trump's visit to Qatar. The Prime Minister defended Qatar's investments in the U.S. as part of long-standing cooperation. Russia-Ukraine peace talks in Turkey might only start tomorrow. They were originally scheduled to happen today. Plans changed last minute when President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin said that they will not attend the meeting. Russia is instead sending a delegation of rather low-level officials. Here's Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky commenting on that today.
I know nothing about a delegation. I haven't even checked. Look, nothing's going to happen until Putin and I get together, okay? And obviously he wasn't going to go. He was going to go, but he thought I was going to go. He wasn't going if I wasn't there. And I don't believe anything's going to happen, whether you like it or not, until he and I get together. But we're going to have to get it solved because too many people are dying.
Ukrainian President Zelensky says he's sending Ukraine's defense minister to lead the delegation, but the head of the State Security Service and the chief of staff will not be there. The Ukrainian president also seeks more information on when the meeting will take place, either today or tomorrow. The U.S. is sending Secretary of State Marco Rubio to lead the American delegation. Now, unlike the U.S. and Ukraine, Russia is not sending high-level officials to these peace talks. Instead, a presidential aide to Putin is leading the talks for Russia. Earlier today, President Trump said there will not be real breakthroughs in the peace talks until he meets with Putin face-to-face. President Trump said this morning that the U.S. is getting very close to securing a nuclear deal with Iran. He said Tehran had sort of agreed to the terms already. This news comes as the U.S. is stepping up pressure on Iran's missile program with new sanctions targeting key suppliers. Here are those details.
The Treasury Department has announced sweeping sanctions against 6 individuals and 12 entities tied to Iran's intercontinental ballistic missile development. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the U.S. cannot allow Iran to develop intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs, calling it an unacceptable threat. ICBMs are missiles capable of traveling over 3,400 miles and are designed to carry nuclear warheads. Among those targeted by sanctions are the Iran-based Advanced Fiber Development Company and Shanghai Tanchain New Material Technology Company based in China. The Treasury Department says these entities have been supplying Iran with carbon fiber and other precursors used to build the long-range missiles. Iran appears open to negotiations. Top advisor Ali Shamkhani told NBC News that Tehran would commit to never building nuclear weapons and allow inspections in exchange for immediate sanction relief. President Trump says he does not want the high-stakes nuclear talks with Iran to take a violent course while pushing Iran to accept the deal. Trump made the comments during a state dinner in Doha, Qatar Wednesday, saying there are only 2 courses to take.
There's a friendly and a non-friendly, and the non-friendly is a violent course, and I don't want that. I'll say it up front, I don't want that, but they have to get moving.
Trump's pressure strategy drew a response from Iran's president, who said on state TV that Iran will not bow to any bully. Despite sharp rhetoric, both sides are still talking. The United States and Iran agreed to additional negotiations after a 4th round of talks last week.
Moving on, the Chinese regime has announced a tightening of control over its strategic mineral resources. This is a move that comes just days after trade talks with the United States that highlighted critical materials export. In an online statement, China's Ministry of Commerce said Beijing would strengthen control over the entire supply chain of strategic minerals. Now, China is the world's leading supplier of dozens of strategic minerals. It holds a monopoly on the processing of rare earths, which is a group of 17 elements vital in many applications, from commercial technology like electric cars all the way to military equipment. In recent years, China has tightened its grip on various processed critical minerals. It's viewed as a way the Chinese regime is responding to Western restrictions on technology that often has military applications. Some analysts consider the impact of the new measures on the U.S. limited, since previous restrictions were already there to begin with. But U.S. lawmakers and others have viewed it as a reminder to urge nations not to depend on Chinese supplies. The parents of a released Israeli-American hostage are thanking the Trump administration for bringing back their son. 21-year-old Aidan Alexander was released on Monday as the last known living American hostage. His parents gave remarks at the Tel Aviv hospital today, where he's being treated.
It is wonderful to have Aidan home. Really a gift from God to watch him hug Yael, his brother, and his sister, knowing that his suffering is over and that our family can finally begin to heal. First and foremost, I want to thank President Trump, Ambassador Witkoff, and the Special Envoy Boller. During our family reunion, Ambassador Witkoff was waking up America's officials at 3 a.m. on the East Coast just to share the good news and encourage them to speak with our family.
He added that American influence makes it more likely that new negotiations could release more hostages and eventually end the war. The father also says that his effort to bring home all 58 hostages will continue until they're all released. Aidan's mother directly addressed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. She's calling on him to bring back all hostages still held in Gaza. When we come back, House Republicans are getting closer to sending their consequential budget bill over to the Senate. We'll have details on the latest advance changes to food stamps and Medicaid, as well as the pushback from one Republican senator. Stay with us.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one, get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one, get one free offer goes away.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Welcome back to Newsroom. House Republicans are getting closer to sending their budget bill over to the Senate. All committee work is done today after a 26-hour marathon to make changes to Medicaid, as well as late last night, a separate committee advancing changes to the food stamps program. Here's NTD's Melina Wisecup.
Late last night, the House's Agriculture Committee passed their portion of the budget bill, including changes to the food stamps program, like expanding work requirements for beneficiaries and narrowing the eligibility so that less people would be eligible to get those benefits to begin with. It also puts states on the hook to cover a portion of the costs and prevents the federal government from increasing the monthly benefits in the future. Now, the ranking member on the committee laid out her opposition, saying that there are already work requirements built into the program and that receiving these benefits aren't a means to survive. Meanwhile, the Republican chairman insists that over the years, the program has become increasingly more burdensome for the federal government to carry. As a matter of fact, it's become more of a burden since the COVID-19 pandemic. Listen.
Since 2019, SNAP costs have skyrocketed from $60 billion to $110 billion annually, an 83% increase, while enrollment has grown from 36 million to 42 million.
Folks, the average SNAP benefit is about $6 per day. Let me say that again, $6 a day. You don't build a life on SNAP. You build a bridge to the next paycheck.
There are also many similar reforms to Medicaid benefits, including work requirements, improving eligibility twice a year instead of once a year. The Medicaid portion also adds a requirement for some Medicaid recipients who make more than 100% of the federal poverty level to pay certain out-of-pocket expenses. It also disincentivizes states from allowing illegal immigrants to get Medicaid benefits. Now, one Republican senator is not too thrilled about the changes to Medicaid from his Republican House colleagues. Listen to what Senator Josh Hawley had to say.
I think that's clear. It's got to change before it can pass the Senate. And I continue to stand by my line in the sand, which is no Medicaid benefit cuts. Listen, if you want to do work requirements, I'm all for that. I bet every Republican and I bet most Americans would agree with that. But we're not talking here about just work requirements. The House goes much, much, much further than that.
His opposition is notable because he's not usually one to buck party lines. It also begs the question of how many other Republican senators share a similar sentiment. Now, this could create troubles for the House version of the bill once it makes it over to the Senate, if it makes it over to the Senate, because they can only afford to lose a handful of Republican votes in order to get this bill across the finish line in both the House and the Senate. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Moving on, are U.S. allies properly equipped to wage war alongside the U.S. military? This Thursday, the Senate Armed Service Committee examined the main causes of delays and hurdles with foreign military sales. Here's our Washington correspondent, Luis Martinez.
It currently takes an average of 18 months for a foreign military sales contract to be awarded, but it can take several years before weapon systems are actually delivered to U.S. allies.
We agree. We need to spend money. We're scared to death of what Russia's doing. But we can't go buy your stuff because, number one, we can't get approval from your government, and number two is your defense contractors can't produce it on time. Okay, so, I mean, how foolish is this? We know Putin is a danger, right? And we just, because of bureaucracy, not getting this done, this doesn't make any sense.
Republican senators argued for the need to expedite foreign military sales deliveries to close allies like Israel, Taiwan, and NATO nations. Democrats agreed that the procurement process needs updating.
We ought to make a decision. It shouldn't be that hard to figure out. Taiwan, our NATO allies, Israel, those actually are pretty easy.
We should have policies that make it easy for allies, those in treaty arrangements with us, to avoid some of the needless delays in these practices. So
there are a range of things that we can do to make the FMS process a lot better, but I'm going to accept what they agreed with, which is that the agency responsible should have the kind of updated authorities that will enable them to get on with it.
This week, the Trump administration announced over $150 billion in foreign military sales to Saudi Arabia and the UAE.
Do you have any reactions to comments made by Senator Murphy that he wants to see a larger scrutiny to the latest weapon sales that the Trump administration announced in the Middle East to Saudi Arabia, Qatar?
yes, there's such a possibility for corruption in those sales that greater scrutiny by Congress. They may be fine, but when you see real estate deals or crypto investments or a private plane being gifted to the president, it raises real concerns, and Congress needs to take a look.
Republicans rejected the bribery accusations, but agreed that oversight is needed.
Well, I'm not surprised that they would characterize, mischaracterize a president that they're not particularly happy with. But we do exercise oversight. It's one of our roles, and there's room for plenty of oversight.
It's important to note that in fiscal year 2024, the United States made $117 billion through foreign military sales. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
Now, on a different note, the House Speaker says he supports a ban on stock trading for members of Congress. This is an idea that has strong bipartisan support. Speaker Johnson says lawmakers should not have any appearance of impropriety. Here's the Speaker at a press conference yesterday.
On balance, my view is we probably should do that because I think it's been abused in the past, and I think, sadly, a few bad actors discolor it for everyone.
House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries also supports it, and President Trump said he would sign a bill if it reaches his desk. Over the years, several lawmakers have introduced bills on this issue. Most recently, Congressman Chip Roy, a Republican, and Seth Magaziner, a Democrat, reintroduced a bill requiring sitting members and their family members to use a blind trust fund for any trading-related assets. With the latest support from the Speaker, the bill has a better chance of making it out of the House, but Senate leadership has not publicly backed the move just yet. President Trump received a little help yesterday from a Democratic lawmaker. Congressman Ro Khanna filed legislation to codify Trump's executive order requiring prescription drug prices for Americans to be equal with those in other developed nations.
Right now, we're paying 2 to 3 times more for our drugs than people in other industrialized nations. Now, this executive order, codified by the legislation, will allow our cabinet secretaries to put pressure on Big Pharma and make sure that they are not price gouging.
Khanna said the legislation would allow the U.S. to import cheaper drugs. He said the law is needed because pharmaceutical companies will sue, as they did during President Trump's first administration when they managed to quash his executive order on the issue. A Wisconsin judge pleaded not guilty today to federal charges of helping an illegal immigrant evade an immigration arrest in her courtroom. The case will test whether public officials blocking President Trump's illegal immigration crackdown can be held criminally liable. Milwaukee County Circuit Court Hannah Dugan is accused of obstruction and concealing an individual wanted for arrest. Prosecutors allege that last month, Dugan directed federal agents away from a hallway outside of her courtroom. She then allegedly escorted the wanted individual through a non-public exit. The judge faces up to 6 years in prison if convicted on both counts. The United Kingdom plans to create return hubs to process failed asylum seekers in other countries while they await deportation. This move seeks to stop illegal immigrants from using legal tactics to block their removal. NTD's international correspondent Malcolm Hudson reports from London.
The British government is in talks with other countries over so-called return hubs for failed asylum seekers as the government seeks to crack down on illegal immigration. Here's Prime Minister Keir Starmer speaking while on a trip to Albania.
Yes, we are in talks with a number of countries about return hubs, and I see them as a really important innovation.
These potential deals would mean Britain could remove immigrants with no legal right to remain in the UK to other countries. It's not yet known which countries will take the failed asylum seekers. This is expected to be announced in the coming months. The illegal immigrants would be processed at the return hub nations and then deported to their home country. Starmer's spokesman highlighted that this applies to people attempting to stop their deportations using various legal tactics, such as intentionally losing their papers or starting a family so they can then use human rights law to stay in the country. Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama said Italy currently operates a similar program with Albania, sending failed asylum seekers to the country while they await deportation. So far, the scheme has faced numerous judicial hurdles. Rama said Albania will not do a similar deal with other countries.
I have been very clear since day one when we started this process with Italy that this was a one-off with Italy.
British officials will conduct negotiations with potential host countries over the coming months. Starmer also announced new work with Albania to tackle people trafficking gangs who help migrants travel to Britain, often on small and dangerous boats launched from the French coast.
It is totally unacceptable that anybody is getting on a small boat and crossing the channel to the United Kingdom. The last government lost control of the borders. I'm determined that we'll retake control of the borders. That means that we've got to have a concerted effort to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
The plans include investment to upgrade Albania's forensic, biometric and digital capability, and greater intelligence sharing to allow local law enforcement to snare gangsters transporting migrants through the Western Balkans corridor. This using UK-funded drones. The trip comes in the same week that the number of people crossing the channel in small boats passed 12,000 for the year. This puts 2025 on course to be a record year for illegal crossings. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
Secretary Kristi Noem made her case on Capitol Hill yesterday for an increased Homeland Security budget. The current year's budget is $65 billion, and $107 billion is what Noem and the Trump administration want for fiscal year 2026. Senators also pressed Noem on the department's performance under the new administration. Here's NTD's Paul Graney with the report.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem testified before the House Homeland Security Committee. She used her opening statement to criticize the members of the committee who entered the ICE detention center in Newark last week.
We have footage of those members of Congress slamming their bodies into our law enforcement officers, shoving them, screaming profanities in their faces, striking them with their fists, and otherwise assaulting law enforcement.
After the incident, Representative Robert Menendez Jr. said he was simply there to tour the ICE facility. Representative Robert Garcia defended the actions.
I just want to also enter for the record Section 527A of the Department of Homeland Security Appropriations Act of 2024, that it says explicitly that members of Congress have the right to access ICE detention facilities with no prior notice at any time.
Without objection. The Trump administration wants to increase the Department of Homeland Security's budget for this coming fiscal year. In written testimony, Noam praised DHS efforts under the new administration to tackle illegal immigration. Some senators accused Noam's DHS of deporting U.S. citizens, specifically young children.
In both of those cases, the mothers chose to keep their children with them when they returned home to their home country.
Noam also said that part of the increased budget will go towards defending against cyber attacks coming from China. Paul Graney, NTD News.
Coming up next, new CDC data shows the number of overdose deaths is at the lowest it's been in 5 years. But while fentanyl-related deaths have gone down, meth and cocaine-related deaths have actually risen. We'll be speaking with a former DEA special agent after this break.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50-enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
Stay tuned to get a free month of home warranty protection. Tired of searching for contractors when your home appliances and systems break down, only to leave you stuck with a huge repair bill and shoddy repairs? Plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and appliance breakdowns could cost thousands.
Hi, I'm Ty Pennington, here for Choice Home Warranty. They protect my home from expensive repairs, and they can do the same for you. No matter if it's your refrigerator, plumbing, or more than 20 other home systems and appliances, Choice Home Warranty has saved millions of homeowners a whole lot of money. For a low monthly fee, you get their nationwide network of trusted local technicians with plans that cover repairs and replacements done quickly and the right way.
I would recommend anyone who is listening to this to call Choice Home Warranty up. It eliminates anxiety, frustration, and it saves you money.
Don't let an appliance or home system break the bank, leaving you stressed. Call Choice Home Warranty before that happens and get your first month free. Plus, call in the next 5 minutes and we'll give you free limited roof leak coverage. That's a $70 value, free. Just call now.
No more headaches searching for technicians. No more budget-breaking chaos. Just a peace of mind of having Choice Home Warranty at your service. I trust Choice Home Warranty with my home, and you should too.
Year after year, Choice Home Warranty is recognized as the nation's top home warranty and has thousands of 5-star reviews from real homeowners. Experience real budget protection and call Choice Home Warranty now.
Stop throwing money down the toilet chasing contractors. Call Choice Home Warranty now and save big with their special offer of your first month free and free limited roof coverage. Don't wait another minute. Call now.
Call Choice Home Warranty for your free personalized quote and to get your first month free. Call in the next 5 minutes, and as our special offer, you'll receive free limited roof coverage. That's over $100 in savings. This offer won't last long. Call now to lock in your rate and save big. Call 800-216-9114, 800-216-9114.
I am blind, but I need not see. I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free.
Welcome back. Germany is backing President Trump's push to raise NATO's defense spending target. The proposed new goal is more than double the current level. At a NATO foreign ministers meeting in Turkey, Germany's new foreign minister, Johann van der Pfel, voiced strong support for President Trump's call to raise defense spending to 5% of the GDP.
And the result is indeed the 5% that President Trump has called for, which he considers necessary. And we are following him on this, and we see this as a clear commitment by the United States of America to Article 5. NATO stands closely together, and everyone must know that this defense alliance has become stronger as a result of this deplorable war and is closer together than ever before.
Vodafone took office just days ago under Germany's newly formed conservative government. Currently, NATO's target stands at 2% of GDP, a goal currently met or surpassed by 22 of its 32 member states. But amid ongoing tensions with Russia, some leaders say that is no longer enough. The European Commission says it sent its preliminary findings to TikTok following an investigation launched last year. The EU executive says TikTok has failed to comply with the Digital Services Act. That act requires online platforms to do more to tackle illegal and harmful content. It also requires companies to provide information on advertisements. TikTok faces a second investigation into its management of risks related to elections. The Commerce Department has issued a sharp warning to companies using Huawei chips developed in violation of U.S. export laws. Officials believe the Chinese tech giant used illegally acquired U.S. technology to build its latest AI processors. While the Biden-era AI diffusion rule was scrapped this week, the Trump administration says a replacement is coming. The rule aims to keep advanced AI tech out of the hands of potential enemies like China. The U.S. says Huawei's ties to the Chinese Communist military make unrestricted tech access unacceptable. American firms are being told to avoid red flag customers. One of Stanford's own newspapers, the Stanford Review, is raising awareness about Chinese espionage activities on its campus.
After interviewing dozens of Stanford's professors, students, and faculty members, the newspaper has come to a conclusion. There are Chinese spies actively collecting intelligence at the school. None of the interviewees would speak on the record out of fear of retaliation from the Chinese regime or from Stanford's own academic community. According to the report, lab workflows, software, and communication channels used by the school and even student research projects are all targets. The university responded to the report, saying, quote, "Stanford takes its commitment to national security with the utmost seriousness, and we are acutely aware of the threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party to all research universities."
The new U.S. ambassador to China arrived in Beijing today. He's a former U.S. senator from Georgia and a business executive. He wrote on X that it's an honor to represent President Trump as U.S. ambassador to China. 75-year-old David Perdue has worked as an executive in firms varying from clothing to logistics. He also served as a Republican U.S. Senator from Georgia from 2015 to 2021 and ran for Georgia governor in 2022. Now, while in the Senate, he served on the Armed Services, Foreign Relations, Banking, Budget, and Agriculture committees. His official biography says he also chaired the subcommittees on Sea Power and State Department oversight and traveled extensively to strengthen U.S. partnerships across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Perdue was confirmed as ambassador on April 29th. Senator Ted Cruz is criticizing the Chinese Communist Party for its ongoing human rights abuses, especially forced organ harvesting against Falun Gong practitioners. Cruz wrote on X this week that China's persecution of Falun Gong practitioners is an attack on religious freedom and human rights. Cruz called for dismantling the CCP's state-sponsored organ harvesting industry. Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a spiritual practice based on the principles of truthfulness, compassion, and forbearance. It has been brutally persecuted in China since 1999. In 2019, the China Tribunal in London concluded that the Chinese regime had been forcibly harvesting organs from prisoners of conscience for years on a substantial scale. Falun Gong practitioners were listed as the principal source of human organs. Cruz introduced the Senate version of the Falun Gong Protection Act in March. Now, it would sanction people implicated in the forced harvesting of organs of Falun Gong practitioners. The House passed its version of the bill with no objections on May 5th. An emotional letter from a jailed Australian citizen is putting pressure on Beijing. Pro-democracy blogger Yang Hengjun is pleading for help after 6 years in a Chinese prison. The imprisoned Chinese-Australian writer sent a letter to Australia's Prime Minister asking for help to secure his release. Yang was accused of espionage and sentenced to death with reprieve. This means his term could be reduced to life in prison if he stays out of trouble. The pro-democracy blogger says his health is failing and describes enduring unbearable suffering while detained in Beijing. Australian politicians say Yang's letter shows courage and hope. They're urging China to release him so he can reunite with his family. And new provisional data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention shows a significant drop in overdose deaths. The numbers sit at the lowest that they've been in 5 years. The Trump administration has been ramping up efforts to combat illicit drug flows, including tariffs targeting China's synthetic drug supply chain, as well as designating the Sinaloa cartel as a foreign terrorist organization. So now let's bring on Stacy Zinn. She is a retired special agent with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, as well as Montana's former DEA resident agent in charge. Stacy, it's great having you here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's talk about this provisional data, right, from the CDC. It shows a 27% drop from last year in these drug overdose deaths in 2024. And within that, these deaths that specifically involve synthetic opioids like fentanyl, they also dropped by 37%. So as someone with extensive experience in drug enforcement, what do these numbers tell you?
Well, the numbers tell me that we're starting to educate the community and the public about the dangers of fentanyl, of the harsh, the chemical reaction that can cause for one to overdose and die from these pills. The cliche "one pill can kill" campaign has been very successful. The other thing is that we as law enforcement, or me as a former law enforcement, have been adding pressure to the Sinaloa cartel, the CJNG, about we are coming after you. So you need to be aware, and you need to stop pushing these drugs across the southwest border and into our communities.
But we also saw that cocaine-related deaths jumped by about 8,000, and the same number around for meth-related deaths. What do you think contributed to that rise?
Well, what's going to happen, the cartels are there to make money. So you're going to take away one product, they're going to shove other product into our country via our ports of entry, maybe through Canada, maybe through different regions. So it only makes sense. Remember, cartels are there to make money. They're not going to lose money unless we completely shut down the cartels. So this is to be expected.
So Stacey, are you saying that unless we shut down these cartels, it's just going to be like a constant game of whack-a-mole here?
Oh, absolutely. But we also need to continue educating our kids, the next generation, about the dangers of drugs. If we didn't have the demand here in the United States, then the cartels wouldn't be shoving a product at us.
Absolutely. So would you say that these shrinking numbers of overdose deaths is a trend that you're going to expect to continue to see in the coming years?
Yes, ma'am. Until we stop, we need to break down that demand. But we also need to, for lack of better words, hammer these cartels, because they're the ones that are also pushing these drugs into our country. But we also have nefarious groups out there in different regions that are also contributing to the success of the cartels pushing their drugs into our country.
All right, so let's talk about the DOJ charging these suspected high-ranking members of the Sinaloa cartel with narco-terrorism. Our Attorney General Pam Bondi, she's saying that they're going to try and get life in prison for these suspects. Tell us more about your experience. How difficult is it to catch and then indict these individuals and then make sure that they actually stay in jail if convicted?
Well, it's very hard because a lot of these cartel heads, even the first tier, the second tier, they are buffered. They are protected by their underlings. In order investigation to be successful in the United States, you really have to peel back the onion and find out who is doing what. These individuals, they have alias names. They are protected with the different technology they use to communicate with one another. It's hard to determine who's actually the puppet master, who is in control of this certain corridor and stuff like that. So law enforcement has an uphill battle of linking it to these high-level traffickers. But once they do, then you're taking off the head of the snake. Now, the other problem is trying to get them extradited into the United States. If these individuals are buffered in Mexico, then you're dealing with also the Mexican government. There's a whole layer of investigation that takes place in order to get those individuals sent to us.
So if the DOJ is successful in this case with these individuals, what kind of a precedent could these cases set for the war on drugs?
It is going to put the cartel heads, they're going to take a step back and go, wow, America's serious now. They mean business. So they will pause. They will see how successful we are. They'll look at our judicial system. They will receive the reports, the investigative reports, to determine where did they make a mistake, and they will make changes. But again, we have to have a strong leader in our White House, which we do, that is willing to do whatever it takes to combat the cartels, combat these individuals that are linked to narco-terrorists, do what it takes to get rid of these elements that are causing harm to our communities.
So are you seeing any areas where the Trump administration could be even tougher on drugs or offer even more support to DEA agents?
We need more bodies in different rural areas. For example, in the larger states where you have less law enforcement present, we need more resources, more support. We need more support in the Native American community in those regions, because the cartels are preying on the Native American communities. There needs to be additional support there. There needs to be better resources to be able to coordinate with the local law enforcement, give them incentive to work with the feds in order to do these investigations, because these type of investigations are long term, and local law enforcement does not have the resources to do that, and that's where the feds can help out.
I love this conversation that we're having, and I especially like that you addressed earlier the need to educate our younger generation, because I think other than addressing the supply of these drugs, it's also very important, of course, to address this demand that we're seeing inside the country. Is there also more we could be doing in that aspect other than just addressing young people?
Absolutely. Well, let's go back to educating the young ones. Parents need to be aware of what's happening in their backyard. They need to know what these kids know. Social media is not our friend when it comes to educating our kids about the different types of drugs out there. The internet drugs, that is crucial. So it starts at the basic level of parents being aware. With the legalization of marijuana, we basically have said, hey, this is like drinking a Coors Light when the THC levels are so high. Parents need to educate themselves of what the dangers of this THC that's out there. So first, get the kids involved, or get the parents involved. Communicate with your kids. Know what your kid's doing. Schools need to also, step up and know what's happening in their hallways, in the bathrooms. And then we as a community, we need to elect people in office that are going to be tough on drugs, be tough on these drug traffickers, and stand as a community and saying no more, not in our backyard.
Absolutely. I think a multifaceted approach is always so important in these types of situations. Stacey's in, former DA special agent. Great having you on today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, the Rome Opera House celebrates the 125th anniversary of a first ever performance. Hidden away in a former pasta factory, the crew is busy rehearsing a new version of the Italian masterpiece. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
I hear your SOS.
On streets across America, young people are homeless, abused, in danger. Covenant House is helping young people with nowhere else to turn, but the need is overwhelming. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month. You'll help provide hot meals, safe shelter, medical care, and love to more than 2,000 young people who sleep at a Covenant House every night. Homeless young people are afraid and alone. Your monthly donation right now will show them they are loved and safe.
I have no words to express how Covenant House changed my life.
Call or go online now and give just $19 a month. We'll send you this comforting blanket as a reminder of the difference you're making in a young person's life. Call or go online now to safeplacetosleep.org.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Thanks for staying with us. This year, the Rome Opera House is celebrating its 125th anniversary of the first ever performance of Giacomo Puccini's Tosca. Hidden away in a former pasta factory, the crew is busy rehearsing a new version of the Italian composer's masterpiece. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas with more on their upcoming performance.
In what seems like an ordinary warehouse in the Eternal City, members of Rome's Opera House are busily adjusting costumes and preparing stage sets. This year, the group is celebrating the 125th anniversary of the first ever performance of Giacomo Puccini's opera, Tosca.
We make hand-tailored costumes with a true antique craft system, that is, with hand stitches. Nothing is glued, nothing is industrial. Clearly, a costume made in this way is a costume that will last over time.
They don't have a digital archive system. Instead, they rely on the memory of the designers and tailors who work there.
We make new costumes, and we also keep old ones that we keep in our wardrobe, where we have around 70,000 costumes from the start of the 1900s to today.
For the anniversary, Pia Giotti's team is reconstructing the original costumes designed by Puccini's costume and set designer Adolf Hohenstein. Pia Giotti scoured the archive at the Casa Ricordi in Milan, a publisher of classical music and opera.
We researched all the figurines that exist at the Casa Ricordi. Fortunately, all the figurines of each costume still exist and are very detailed, and we have reconstructed them, trying to respect as much as possible the flavor of the time, from the point of view of fabrics, shapes, and all the materials used, even for the details.
Monia Colarossi is a tailor working on the costumes for the 125th anniversary. She says she prefers the challenge of working with historic costumes.
Let's say when you come in here, you learn the tricks of the trade. Because yes, the school can teach you, can give you the notions. But our work, unfortunately, either for better or for worse, you learn it on the work table. Because there is no teacher who can tell you how you should put the needle or how you should put the thimble.
At the center of the opera is a dark-haired protagonist, Tosca, who is forced to murder her antagonist to protect her dignity and the man she loves. Rome Opera House musical director Michele Mariotti says the masterpiece evokes the essence of the Eternal City.
For Rome, Tosca is an excellence. Tosca is Rome. It represents Rome because it is a Roman opera. It smells of Rome. It smells of its streets, squares, and corners. It is just as marvelous as Rome is. It is a thriller that really leaves you with bated breath.
Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Tom Cruise has made his grand return to the Cannes Film Festival. He's joining a star-studded cast to celebrate the latest installment in the Mission Impossible series. Cruise walked the red carpet yesterday to a live rendition of the Mission Impossible theme song, greeting fans and joining his co-stars. There's speculation the 62-year-old actor may have made his final appearance in the franchise in Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. The film, set for release on May 23rd, marks Cruise's 8th turn as Ethan Hunt. With a budget of about $400 million, it's one of several big-name films that cinema operators are hoping will help them stay on the road to recovery 5 years after the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. A team of engineering whiz kids set out to design a robot that would break the world speed record for solving a Rubik's Cube. The robot did not just break the record, it annihilated it.
Watch a robot solve a Rubik's Cube with world record-breaking speed. Did you see it? If not, it's because this marvel of a machine did it in a fraction of a second. A slow-motion replay shows the robot going through its series of motions that solve the confounding cube in the blink of an eye. The lightning-fast puzzle-playing bot is the brainchild of a team of engineering students from Purdue University who designed and created the robot, nicknamed the Purdubix Cube, to combine color recognition, custom-solving algorithms, and industrial-grade motion control. It was unveiled at a student design competition late last year where the team took first prize, and they've since taken it a step further to the folks at Guinness World Records, who confirmed the robot's Rubik's Rockin' time at a blistering 1/10 of a second, nearly 3 times faster than the previous record holder. Here's another fascinating feat that used cutting-edge technology to take a virtual time travel trip back to ancient Greece. Professor Juan de Lara at Wolfson College at Oxford set out to recreate the Parthenon in an effort to gain understanding of what the ancient temple's interior lighting may have looked like. Using 3D reconstructions and calculations based on physical simulations of light and its reflection, de Lara digitally recreated the structure's interior in stunningly accurate detail and simulated how its limited sun-sourced lighting may have interacted with its lavish ivory and golden appointments at different times of the day. The simulation was the culmination of 4 years of research that has successfully shed light on one of the world's most famous ancient landmarks.
Coming up, apartment owners at a luxury New York skyscraper are suing the building's developers for what they say are thousands of severe cracks. Find out more after the break.
I was a young dad of 3 amazing kids. I was finally following my dreams. Just when you feel like life is starting to come together, you get kind of hit in the face. I was born with a congenital heart defect and had open heart surgery as a kid. I was supposed to go to the heart doctor once a year, and I finally went. He listened to my heart, and I'll never forget, he sat back and he said, yeah, it's time for open heart surgery, or you risk your aorta rupturing, and that's it. I was scared out of my mind. The night before my open heart surgery, I made a goodbye video for my kids. Be strong, take care of your mom. I love you guys.
Seeing, all the kids hug him goodbye and hoping that they were going to be able to hug him again.
I love you. But I did make it, thanks to the work of the American Heart Association. So that's why I'm asking you to join me. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help get the next person trained in CPR, get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care, as well as fund the next medical breakthrough like these heart valves that helped save my life. When you give $19 a month with your credit card, we'll send you this special t-shirt to show you're a part of our community of monthly donors.
I'm most grateful that I get to have a husband that I get to grow old with, and a husband that gets to be there for his children.
I believe without the American Heart Association, I would not be here today. If this can happen to me, it can happen to you, it can happen to anybody. Your donation can literally help save a life. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor.
When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without a high school diploma. My name is Ariel, and my entire life changed when I took a chance and I got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were with me every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I pushed through all the challenges. Oh my goodness.
So Ariel, we made this yearbook for you. It has notes from all the people that are here. Your achievement has set an example for so many students. Most importantly, your daughter.
Education was the key that unlocked all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it.